The fire needs building. It's March, early morning, still dark. Agnes Plowman wakes in the cold cottage and moves to the hearth, where yesterday's coals wait under their blanket of ash. Her hands scrape the ash away. Small sticks go on first, then larger pieces. The fire catches and the room begins to warm. Outside, a rooster crows. The sky is starting to lighten, that grey pre-dawn that comes before the sun. This is how the day begins in Barton, a village in Lincolnshire, in the year 1320. And we're going to watch what happens next. Not just this morning, but through a full day in spring, then summer, then autumn, then winter. We'll see what medieval peasants actually did with their time, the work, the meals, the small tasks that filled the hours from sunrise to sunset. No drama, no crisis, just the steady rhythm of days lived 700 years ago. As you listen, let your body settle where it is. We'll move slowly through this. Agnes's husband William is awake now. He sits up on the sleeping platform, pulls on his outer tunic, his boots. Their 3 children, John, age 12, Margaret, age 8, and little Thomas, age 4, are still asleep under wool blankets, their breathing soft and even in the dim cottage. William doesn't wake them yet. The animals come first. He steps outside. The air is damp and cold in that particular March way, raw, unsoftened by any warmth from the ground. He can see his breath. He walks to the small barn attached to the cottage where they keep their ox, 3 sheep, and a handful of chickens. The animals stir as he enters. The ox turns its large head toward him, patient and calm. William gives the ox hay from the small stack in the corner. The sheep shift in their pen, their wool thick and oily in the dim light. The chickens are already awake, making small sounds. He opens the small door, and they file out into the yard, immediately lowering their heads to peck at whatever the ground offers. The work takes perhaps half an hour, not rushed, just steady attention to what needs doing. Back inside, the cottage has warmed slightly. Agnes has porridge cooking, oats and water in the pot that hangs over the fire. She stirs it occasionally while she checks the bread from 2 days ago. Still good, though the crust is hard now. She'll bake again soon. The children wake. Margaret helps Thomas dress, while John pulls on his own clothes and moves immediately to the fire. They eat, standing near the warmth, wooden bowls in hand, wooden spoons moving from bowl to mouth. The porridge is thick and hot. There's small beer to drink, weak ale that everyone drinks instead of water. The meal takes perhaps 10 minutes. No one lingers. Then the day's work begins properly. William and John head out to the fields as the sun rises fully. The light is still cool and slanted, that early spring light that gives warmth without heat. The village fields spread out in long strips, each family's land scattered across the common fields in narrow bands. William can see other men heading to their strips, can hear the occasional call of an ox being led into position. The work today is plowing. William's strips need turning before planting can begin. He has 6 strips in the east field and 5 in the west field. 11 acres total, scattered so everyone gets some good soil and some poor. The ox is already yoked to the heavy wooden plough, its iron blade dark against the morning light. John walks alongside the ox with the stick, his voice low and steady. On now, steady, good. The ox knows this work. It leans into the yoke, and the plough blade bites into the soil. William grips the plough handles, his body angled to keep the blade at the right depth. The earth turns over, behind them, dark and damp. A furrow opens. The smell of turned soil rises in the cool air. They reach the end of the strip, 200 feet, and turn, another furrow back. The work finds its rhythm. From other strips comes the same sound, plough blades, cutting earth, men's voices, guiding oxen, the creak of wood and leather, the village at work, strip by strip, furrow by furrow. The morning passes in this repetition. The sun climbs higher. The air warms slightly, but stays cool. William's hands know the feel of the plough handles, know the slight adjustments needed when the blade hits a rock or a particularly dense patch of soil. John's voice continues its quiet stream of guidance to the ox. The animal's shoulders work steadily under the yoke. Meanwhile, back at the cottage, Agnes has her own rhythm. She sits near the fire with her distaff and spindle. The distaff, a stick holding prepared wool, rests against her shoulder. Her right hand holds the spindle, lets it drop and spin, the weight drawing out fibers from the distaff, twisting them into thread. When the spindle reaches the floor, she winds the completed thread around it and begins again. Drop, twist, wind, drop, twist, wind. Her hands move constantly, but without tension. This is work that can be done while thinking about other things, while watching Thomas play nearby, while talking to Margaret. The spindle hums faintly as it spins. Margaret sits beside her mother with 2 wooden cards, paddles with small metal teeth. She's combing raw wool between them, straightening the fibers, preparing them for spinning. The motion is rhythmic. Pull the wool across one card with the other. Gather the straightened fibers. Begin again. Thomas has his wooden horse, carved by William last winter. He walks it along the edge of the hearthstones, making small sounds. He's 4 years old. His world is this cottage, the yard outside, the immediate and small. The morning continues, spinning, carding, playing. The fire crackles softly. Smoke drifts up toward the hole in the roof. Outside, the spring morning warms by degrees. Around mid-morning, Agnes sets her spinning aside and begins the midday meal. Dried peas go into a pot of water over the fire. An onion from the storage area. Some herbs hanging from the rafters. A piece of salt pork for flavor. The pot will simmer through the morning, the peas softening, the liquid thickening. She goes back to spinning while it cooks, always spinning. The wool supply seems endless, though of course it isn't. It's just that the work of turning wool into thread and thread into cloth is so slow that it feels endless. The sun reaches its high point. William and John return from the fields, their faces flushed from work, their hands rough with soil. They wash in the basin near the door. Agnes ladles pottage into bowls. There's bread. There's more small beer. They eat without much conversation. Just the sounds of eating and the fire and the occasional shift of a child. The food is hot and filling. After a morning of physical work, that's sufficient. William and John return to the ploughing. More strips, more furrows. The afternoon light is warmer now, and the work feels heavier than in the morning. But the rhythm is unchanged. The ox pulls, the plough cuts, the earth turns. From neighboring strips come the same sounds and rhythms. No one talks much. The work doesn't require it. Each man knows his task. Each ox knows its work. The field slowly transforms from winter compacted soil to spring-ready furrows. When the meal is done, there's a brief rest. William sits by the fire, his back against the wall, his eyes half closed. John lies on the sleeping platform for a few minutes. Agnes and Margaret clean the bowls with old bread, wipe them, set them aside. The rest lasts perhaps half an hour. Then the afternoon begins. At the cottage, Agnes has begun bread making. Flour and water and a bit of old dough saved from the last baking as a starter. She kneads it on a board near the fire, her hands working the dough until it feels right, a judgment learned over years, felt in the hands rather than explained. She shapes 3 loaves, sets them near the fire to rise. Margaret has taken Thomas outside. She's been given the task of watching the chickens. They've wandered from the immediate yard and need herding back. She and Thomas walk around the cottage area, Margaret calling the chickens, Thomas throwing small stones near them to redirect their movement. The afternoon is warmer now. Other children are visible in the distance, doing similar work. A few women are at the well, drawing water. The village has a quiet, distributed quality. Everyone working, but not in one place. By mid-afternoon, Agnes judges the bread ready. She pushes the loaves onto hot stones at the edge of the fire, covers them with an iron pot. The cottage fills with the smell. When the bread is done, Agnes removes it with a wooden paddle, sets it on a board to cool. 3 large loaves. 2 days of bread? Maybe 3. The sun is lower now. William and John finish their work for the day. 3/4 of an acre ploughed. Good progress. They walk back to the cottage as the afternoon light softens into early evening. William checks the animals. The ox back in its space in the barn. The sheep counted and settled. The chickens herded into their shelter for the night. Everything in its place. Inside, Agnes prepares the evening meal. More pottage, this time with different vegetables from storage, some of the fresh bread. The family eats as the light outside fades from grey to darker grey. The fire is built up slightly for the evening. William sharpens a knife that's become dull. Agnes spins. Margaret plays quietly with Thomas. John sits near the fire, his eyes heavy with the tiredness that comes from a day of physical work. By the time darkness is complete, the family is moving towards sleep. William banks the fire. Logs arranged to burn slowly. Ash raked over to slow the burn. Agnes tidies the small space. The children are already drowsing. The day ends. Tomorrow will be similar. More ploughing, more spinning, more meals, more small tasks. This is spring work, repeated until the ploughing is done and the sowing can begin. Across the fields, the strips are slowly changing. Brown earth turning darker where it's been ploughed. The work visible in the landscape. Each day adding more furrows, more strips prepared for seed. The village moving through spring at the pace. Spring requires steady, methodical, patient. Today, William and John are weeding. They move down the strips slowly, bending to pull weeds from around the young crop plants. The sun is on their backs. Sweat darkens their tunics. Around them, insects hum in the warm air. Bees working through whatever flowers they can find. Flies buzzing near the animals. The steady background sound of a summer field. Summer days begin earlier. The sun rises before 5 now, and with it the day's heat starts building. By mid-morning the air is warm. By afternoon it's genuinely hot. It's mid-June. The crops are in the ground: barley, wheat, oats, peas, and growing visibly now, the fields shifting from brown to green. The work has changed. The weeding is repetitive and slow. Bend, pull, move forward a step. Bend, pull. The morning passes this way. Other men work other strips. The whole field a slow collective effort. Occasionally someone speaks across the distance between strips. Brief exchanges, comments about the heat, observations about the crop growth, then back to the work. By midday, they're tired and very warm. The walk back to the cottage is welcome, just for the slight breeze it creates. At home, Agnes has the midday meal ready. Pottage again, but lighter than in winter. Green things added, fresh herbs. The diet has more variety now. There are eggs from the chickens more regularly. Occasionally there's cheese. They eat in the relative cool of the cottage. After the meal, William lies down briefly in the shade near the door. John joins him. The hottest part of the day is not the best time for field work. A short rest makes sense. Agnes doesn't rest. She rarely does. While the men are still, she's spinning or checking the garden plot behind the cottage, or managing Thomas, who's energetic and warm and cranky in the particular way that 4-year-olds get when it's hot. By mid-afternoon, William is up again, but he's not going back to his own strips. Today is one of his labor obligation days. He owes work to the lord of the manor, 3 days a week in summer. He walks to the manor fields about a mile from the village and spends the afternoon doing the same work he does on his own land. Weeding the lord's crops, the same bent back, the same pulled weeds, the same heat, just on someone else's land. Meanwhile, back at the cottage, John and Agnes and Margaret go to the meadow for haymaking. This is communal work. Several families are there. The grass has grown tall and needs cutting. John has learned to use a scythe now. He's not as smooth as the adult men, but he's capable. He swings the blade in long arcs, cutting the grass just above ground level. The grass falls in neat rows behind him. Agnes and Margaret follow with wooden rakes, spreading the cut grass so it dries evenly in the sun. The work has a different quality than field work. More people together. Occasional conversation. Someone's baby cries from where it's been laid in the shade. A dog runs through the meadow and has to be called back. There's almost a festival quality to it, though the work itself is steady and real. The afternoon wears on. The cut grass lies in rows across the meadow. It will stay there for days, drying in the sun, turned occasionally. Then it will be gathered and stacked for winter fodder. They walk back to the cottage in late afternoon. Thomas has been minded by widow Edith. Agnes collects him. He's sleepy and irritable. She carries him back, his head heavy on her shoulder. William returns from the manor fields around the same time. He's tired. His back aches. 3 days a week through summer. This is his afternoon. Work in someone else's land, because that's the arrangement. The evening meal is prepared. Pottage with fresh greens, bread, ale. They eat in the long summer evening light. After the meal, they sit outside for a while. The air is finally cooling. A slight breeze moves through the village. John works on a fence that needs repair. Margaret helps Agnes with spinning. Thomas falls asleep in Agnes's lap, suddenly and completely, the way small children do. The light fades slowly. Summer darkness comes late, not until well after 9, but by then, most of the family's ready for sleep anyway. Long work days make for early bedtimes. July is similar to June, but more so. Hotter, longer days, more work compressed into the available hours. The pattern repeats. Early rising, animals tended, fields worked, midday meal and rest, afternoon work, either on their own land, or on the Lord's land, or on communal tasks, like haymaking. Evening meal. A few hours of remaining light, then sleep. The heat builds through the month. By late July, the midday hours are almost too hot for field work. People adjust. Work harder in the morning and evening. Rest more at midday. The rhythm shifts slightly to accommodate the weather. The village hums with work through July. Everyone occupied. Everyone moving through their tasks. The fields are green and growing. The hay is being made. The animals are thriving on summer grass. This is the season of work paying off. The effort of spring showing results. The promise of autumn harvest visible in the ripening grain. August has a different quality. The work continues. Weeding, haymaking, tending. But there's also waiting now. The crops are growing but not ready. Harvest is coming but not yet here. The heat often peaks in August. The afternoons are long and heavy. Work happens, but more slowly. People move through the heat carefully, conserving energy, seeking shade when possible. At the cottage, Agnes has begun preparing for harvest, checking the tools that will be needed, making sure the sickles are sharp, finding the lengths of straw rope that will bind the grain sheaves. Everything needs to be ready before the grain is ready. By late August, the grain is beginning to turn, still green, but showing hints of gold. Another week, maybe 2. Then harvest will begin, and everything else will stop. The work is cutting. William and the other men use sickles, curved blades on short wooden handles. The motion is specific. Gather the grain stalks with your free hand. Cut low with a sickle. Lay the cut grain in a bundle. Repeat. The grain is dry and scratchy. Chaff gets everywhere, in clothes, in hair, in eyes and mouth. The sun is hot. Everyone is sweating. But the work can't be delayed. Speed matters now in a way it doesn't most of the year. The grain is ready. The heads are heavy and golden. The weather has been dry for 3 days. It's time. The village empties into the fields. Everyone who can work is working. William, Agnes, John, Margaret. Even Thomas is there, too young to help, but old enough to be minded at the field edge. Widow Edith and several other elderly villagers watch the smallest children, sitting in the shade at the field margin. When enough sheaves are gathered, they're stood up in groups called stooks, several sheaves leaning against each other so air can circulate and the grain can continue drying. The strips take shape as the work progresses. Cut grain, bound and stooked. Then the next strip. Agnes and Margaret follow behind the men, binding the cut grain into sheaves. They use stalks of grain twisted into rope, wrapping it around each bundle, tying it off. The sheaves pile up behind them. The field is full of sound, sickles cutting, people calling to each other. Children's voices from the field edge. The rustle of grain and the thud of sheaves being set down. The whole village working. the effort collective and visible. By midday, food is brought to the field. Bread, cheese, ale. People eat quickly, sitting at the field edge, then back to work. No long rest today. The grain won't wait. The afternoon is more cutting, more binding. By evening, William's barley strips are done. Tomorrow he'll work the manor fields, then back to his own wheat strips. The work will continue for 2 weeks, maybe 3. The family walks back to the cottage in the evening light. They're exhausted. Muscles ache. Hands are blistered. Faces are flushed and dusty. But there's satisfaction too. The work is hard but clear. The grain is cut. That's what needed happening. And it happened. The grain is cut and stooked and has dried in the fields for a week. Now comes threshing, separating the kernels from the stalks. William and John carry sheaves from the field to the threshing floor, a hard-packed area near the barn. They lay the sheaves out and beat them with flails. The flail is a wooden tool with a long handle and a shorter stick attached with leather. The short stick swings and strikes the grain heads, knocking the kernels loose. Thwack, thwack, thwack. The sound echoes across the yard, steady and repetitive. The motion is specific. Swing from the shoulders. Let the flail do the work. Don't force it. The kernels pile up, mixed with chaff and bits of stalk. After flailing comes winnowing. Agnes and Margaret do this. They take baskets of the mixed grain and toss it into the air on a breezy day. The wind blows away the lighter chaff. The heavier kernels fall back into the basket. Toss, blow, collect. Toss, blow, collect. The clean grain goes into sacks and storage chests. This is the food supply. What's threshed now needs to last until next harvest. The calculation is careful. Enough to eat through winter and spring. Enough to pay the Lord his portion. Enough to save as seed for next year's planting. By late October, the threshing is mostly done. The storage chests are full. The strips lie empty, just stubble remaining. The intensity of harvest has passed. Now the work shifts. William takes the ox to the woods for firewood. Dead branches and fallen trees are gathered, loaded onto a cart, brought back, chopped into manageable pieces, stacked to dry. This work will continue through November. The wood supply for winter is as important as the food supply. Agnes is preserving what needs preserving. Onions and turnips go into the storage pit. Cabbage is salted. The few apples from trees near the village are dried or packed in straw. Every bit of food that can be saved for winter is being saved. The days are shorter now. By late October, sunrise is after 7, sunset by 5. The evenings are long again. The cottage work resumes, spinning, mending, carving, maintaining. The fire burns more hours. The family spends more time inside. November is the village closing down for winter. The last outdoor work is finished. The wood is gathered. The food is stored. The animals are brought fully inside for the cold months ahead. The ox and sheep move into the barn attached to the cottage. The chickens roost in the barn rafters. The cottage feels more crowded now, but also warmer. The work pace has slowed significantly. There's no field work. The animals need basic care, but nothing intensive. The days are short and often cold or wet. Much of November is spent inside. By late November, the village has fully settled into winter mode. The fields are empty. The animals are housed. The cottage doors stay closed. Smoke rises from every roof. Inside each cottage, families work through their small tasks and wait for spring. Winter days are compressed. The sun rises around 8, sets by 4. That's 8 hours of daylight, and much of it is grey and weak. It's mid-December. William wakes in the dark cottage. Agnes builds the fire, the morning ritual unchanged. Porridge, bread, ale. The family eats near the fire, the only warm spot in the cottage. After breakfast, William checks the animals, the ox, the sheep, the chickens, hay and water, perhaps 30 minutes of work. Then he comes back inside because there's nowhere else productive to be. He sits by the fire and works on a tool repair. Today it's the plough. Some wooden components have developed cracks and need replacing before spring. He works slowly, carefully, by firelight. John sits beside him, watching, occasionally being given a small task. This is how skills transfer, not through formal teaching, but through watching and doing, question and answer, correction and practice. The midday meal comes. Pottage, heavier now with more salt pork or bacon. The family eats, then there's a rest period. The afternoon is similar to the morning. Small tasks done slowly. By mid-afternoon the light is already fading. Sunset comes by 4, and then the long evening begins. Those evening hours, from 4 until sleep around 8 or 9, are the longest part of the winter day. Work continues in the firelight. William might sharpen tools or weave rope. Agnes spins or mends clothing. Margaret helps or plays quietly with Thomas. John carves simple objects. Occasionally there's conversation, stories told to the children, discussion of village matters. Often there's just quiet, the fire crackling, the spindle humming, the wind outside. Everyone absorbed in small tasks or their own thoughts. Agnes and Margaret spin, the distaff and spindle, the carding paddles, the rhythmic work. Thomas plays near the fire with his toys, the carved horse, some shaped sticks, a ball of rags tied with string. He's confined to the cottage most days now, too cold to play outside, too young to help with real work. He occupies himself as best he can. The morning passes slowly. The light outside is grey and weak. The cottage stays dim, even with the fire. Everything feels compressed and quiet. By 8 o'clock, the family is moving towards sleep. The fire is banked, the small space is tidied. They settle onto the sleeping platform under heavy wool blankets. The cottage is cool but not freezing. The long night begins. This is winter. Short work days, long evenings, slow time. The cycle bottoming out, waiting for spring's return. January and February are similar to December, but colder. The work is the same. Animal care, tool maintenance, spinning, small indoor tasks. The days are slightly longer as January passes into February, but still short. The pace is still slow. The cottage work continues. William repairs everything that needs repairing. Agnes spins through the winter wool supply. Margaret improves at spinning. John learns everything his father can teach. By late February, everyone is tired of winter, tired of the closed quarters, tired of the short days. But spring is coming. The light is noticeably stronger. The days are measurably longer. The village waits, every household doing the same, spinning, maintaining, managing stores, waiting for the ground to thaw and the season to turn. Sunday breaks the pattern slightly. The family wakes as usual, but instead of heading to work, they prepare for church. Better clothes, cleaner, less worn, hair covered or combed, a brief attempt at tidiness. They walk to the village church, with most of the village doing the same. 200 people gathering in the stone building at the village center. The service is in Latin. Most people don't understand the words, but they understand the structure. The priest conducts the Mass. There are prayers, singing, a sermon in English. The service lasts about an hour. Afterward, people linger outside. This is the main social time of the week. Neighbors talk, news spreads. Someone mentions a sick cow. Someone else says the thatcher is working next week. Brief exchanges, small talk, the social fabric being maintained. Then home. The rest of Sunday is technically a rest day, but animals still need tending. Meals still need cooking. It's rest in the sense that no field work happens, but the household work continues. This weekly rhythm punctuates the year. Sunday after Sunday, the same pattern. It marks time, divides the weeks, provides a slight variation in the routine. What someone did all day depended on their age. Thomas at 4 contributes almost nothing. He's watched, fed, kept safe. In a few years, he'll start helping. By 8 or 9, he'll be genuinely useful. Margaret at 8 is already useful. Watching Thomas, helping with spinning, fetching things. By 14 or 15, she'll be capable of running a household. She'll marry. Her life will look like her mother's. John at 12 is in transition, still learning but doing real work. Eventually he'll marry, have his own cottage, his own strips. The cycle repeating. Widow Edith at 60 represents the other end. She can't do heavy field work anymore, but she's not useless. She watches children during harvest. She spins slowly. She knows remedies, knows herbs, knows things learned over decades. This is the cycle. Childhood, increasing capacity, peak labor, gradual decline, and throughout the same basic work patterns, adjusted for age and capability. We've moved through a full year with William and Agnes and their family. Spring plowing, summer weeding and haymaking, autumn harvest and threshing, winter maintenance and waiting, the daily rhythm of waking, working, eating, resting, sleeping. Their days had structure. The work was clear. Wake, tend animals, work in fields or at household tasks, eat, work more, eat, work until darkness, sleep. The pattern repeated with seasonal variations, but the underlying structure was constant. Their work was physical and repetitive, the same tasks done over and over. Plowing, sowing, weeding, harvesting, threshing, spinning, cooking, mending. Mastery came through repetition. Competence was built over years of doing the same things in the same ways. Their lives were closely tied to seasons and daylight. Work expanded in summer's long days. Work contracted in winter's short ones. Spring brought one kind of work. Autumn brought another. The year had shape, and everyone moved through that shape together. They worked hard, but not frantically. The pace was steady, rather than rushed. Tasks were done thoroughly, because doing them right the first time meant not having to redo them. Time moved slowly, but it moved. Days accumulated into weeks, weeks into months, months into years. Their work left little room for uncertainty about purpose. Plow so you can sow. Sow so crops will grow. Harvest so you can eat. As you settle towards sleep now, let the images of Barton soften. William guiding the plough, the ox pulling steadily, Agnes with her spindle, thread forming under practised hands, John learning to use a scythe, Margaret carding wool, Thomas with his wooden horse, the fire in the cottage, morning and evening, the rhythm of days, the cycle of seasons, the steady turning of the year. Let those images fade into the darkness. Your own day is done, your own patterns completed, whatever they were. The cottage fire is banked now. The village is quiet. The fields lie under starlight or cloud, waiting for tomorrow's work to begin again, and you can rest too. The darkness is gentle. The quiet is deep. Your breathing can slow. Let sleep come in its own time, at its own pace. The medieval day is done. The work completed. The family settled. And so can you be. Rest now. Good night.